a Netflix original film.
The Wi-Fi isn't working.
In the event of a global communications breakdown, do the following. Stay inside.
What just happened here is happening everywhere.
Avoid strangers.
We've all been deserted.
I don't trust them.
And most importantly, do not panic. Julia Roberts.
What happens next?
Mahershala Ali.
I knew something was coming.
Leave the World Behind. Rated R. In select theaters now and on Netflix December 8th.
Hi, Las Vegas. So Nucho Swanson here with our host, David Figler, and producer, Layla Mohammed. And today we're breaking format to talk about something that is on all of our minds right now, which is the shooting at UNLV. This is our episode for Thursday, December 7th, but we're recording this on the 6th at 6 p.m. Because we wanted to bring you what we know in this moment now. So thank you for joining us, and we hope that this episode is helpful to all of us. David, Layla, thanks for being here late on a Wednesday evening. My first question is just, how are you doing?
It's definitely a lot for the community today in light of this shooting. UNLV is a hub of Las Vegas. There's so many people who go through there. We all know someone who either teaches or goes to or works at UNLV.
Right.
So I think the whole community has their thoughts there right now.
And you're an alum, too, a pretty recent alum of UNLV as well, Layla, right?
Yes, I graduated in 2020.
How about you, David?
Well, I mean, look, these type of events happen all over the country. It's remarkably sad every single time, never gets less. And certain protocols have emerged on how we are supposed to think about things and what we're supposed to say and what we're looking to hear. And it does have a sort of sense of emptiness around it. I mean, we do need to start because it is the protocol to put out our hearts to all those impacted directly by this. The term thoughts and prayers, it needs to be said almost talismanically, but it doesn't have a lot of meaning for most of us anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, now we all fall into our roles of observer or a victim or a friend of someone, but it's hard. It's hard,
Yeah.
and you don't want it to happen. And when it does, you do your best to deal, and that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. How are you doing, Sonia?
Yeah.
God, I'm resonating with everything that you guys are saying. I mean, just David, what you were saying about how does this become the norm now? And the normal human reaction to want to empathize, when that becomes repeated and almost formulaic, it's unfair. What cruel twist of the universe that our normal human impulse to express empathy itself becomes empty because we do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, yeah, it's
no less sincere when we as a team at CityCast say that to all who are listening, and our hearts going out to all to help to the healing, which has to happen.
Yeah.
But it is what it has become.
Well, we've been following the news the whole day, and I guess at this point, at 6:15 on Wednesday, what do we know about the shooting so far?
Here's what we've been able to glean so far. That there was a active shooter on the UNLV campus, focused mostly around Beam Hall. It opened up on the 4th floor of that structure. University police appeared to be the first responders. At some point, shortly after the report of shots fired, there was some manner of shootout with the individual, resulting in his death. He has been described so far only by age category, somewhere in the 60s, and a male. That's all we know. And as far as victims or fatalities, we have gotten confirmation that in addition to his death, 3 other individuals at campus at the time of the shooting are deceased. One additional person is in the hospital, just got upgraded from critical to stable. So that appears to be a good sign. We know about the aftermath, the evacuation, the check of the building, and they were able to reach the conclusion that all was safe, but that other facilities and institutions were shut down as an abundance of caution to just kind of make sure everyone was going to be okay in places like CSN and other, like the airport had a shutdown for a while, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and just to orient this a little around time, the first reports of an active shooter came in at 11:45, and Las Vegas Metropolitan Police sent out on Twitter that they were contained at 12:31 and then deceased at 12:37.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, on top of that, it's a busy week for UNLV right now. It's study week with finals happening next week. And with the university closed for the rest of the week, that we're not sure what's happening. And our thoughts are with all of the students going through and juggling all of this right now.
Mm-hmm.
One other kind of like small tidbit that came out, one of the reporters at the press conference, which was very, very short, I had asked what type of weapon it was, and they didn't release that information, but Sheriff McMahill said that the body had not yet been moved of the shooter, and that was as of 5 o'clock this evening. So that's kind of interesting, too. That means that it's an active crime scene analysis area. And so for whatever reason, they didn't remove the body, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not per se common, but also those investigations are very intense. Lots of photos, lots of gathering of evidence and information.
Layla, you've been in contact with a lot of your people at UNLV. What have you been hearing from them?
Yeah, so the fourth floor of Beam Hall is the marketing department. They were gathered for a faculty meeting when they heard shots fired outside their door. And so they went into lockdown. And as far as I know, all of the people in that room are safe. The professor I was contacting let me know that they were evacuated by 1 p.m. And I had another friend who was in a building around the law building at work, and they were locked down in a supply closet. And they were evacuated a little closer to 5 p.m. So it took them a while to, go through all of the buildings, all of the floors, check all of the rooms. We heard them say in the press conference they had to breach a lot of rooms and get into them and find students huddled together. As of now, we're not sure if there are more people locked down on UNLV campus, but they are shuttling people to the convention center to be picked up and reunite with their families.
Do you mean that your friend was locked in a supply closet for 5 hours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she was texting us updates the whole time. And, during active situations like this, so much information is getting spread, and a lot of it can be wrong. So she was texting us updates of, there might be multiple shooters and casualty numbers that were higher than were actually reported. And just so much information is coming into them on campus. And it's so hard to filter through and see what's real until, we get a press conference or just more information. And something that she had said earlier on in the lockdown, before it was confirmed that the suspect was contained and then deceased, is that they didn't get an update from the police for about 20 minutes, which was really terrifying to be locked in that room with students and faculty, not knowing what's going on. And we were sending her some updates that we were seeing on the news. And then once they got a little closer to 5, she told me that they started banging on a window to let them know that they were in there. Because I think, there's a lot of rooms, a lot of floors, and a lot of buildings on UNLV. It's a big campus. So they were trying to help the police find them in there and get evacuated.
There's a big difference between talking and reporting, especially right now with a fire hose worth of news coming your way. You know what helps? Having reporters in the field. I'm Brad Milkey from ABC News, and that's what we've got on ABC's daily podcast, Start Here. Every morning, Start Here takes you across the country and around the world for a quick, smart look at the stories that matter. It's fast, it's straightforward, and sometimes, gasp, news can even be fun. So let's meet up tomorrow morning. Listen to Start Here wherever you get your podcasts.
'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
David, I know that you also have friends at UNLV. What have you been hearing from them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was trying to assess. I have a very close friend who's a professor who was teaching in that building. He was safe. He had some fairly, harrowing account of just, how it just sort of happened so suddenly. I was noting that some students were, praising that they were informed and others were saying that they weren't. And so it was very interesting. I mean, there certainly were a lot of the UNLV safety system definitely was in play.
What did that look like?
Yeah, well, I have a very tangential relationship with UNLV present. I developed a program that hasn't launched yet, but that puts my phone number in the thing. So whenever there's some big event over at UNLV for public safety, I get a text message, and I got 33 text messages today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When was that last text message, David, that you got?
The last text message was, hold on. Yeah, and my last text message was at 5:46. So, it was going pretty late into the evening, telling people to stay sheltered where they were, and that, evacuation was occurring. Obviously, a very methodical and painstaking procedure. One of my friends, a very, very close friend, is a different professor at UNLV, and his son is a student at UNLV. And he had indicated to me that his son was locked down in a classroom and was really rattled. I think a lot of these students are going to be super, super rattled, and it's going to take some time.
It's definitely a generation that grew up, training for school shooters like this. And I saw in some coverage and all the discourse out there, it's the post-Columbine generation. And I had a lot of friends texting me like, this is what we were worried about when we were on campus. And for it to actually happen, I can't imagine the students who are currently attending UNLV, what they're going through. Yeah,
totally. I have a friend who's a professor at UNLV as well. And I actually had a chance to call him right before we got on our call. He said that his class started at 11:30. And the alarms went off, like the blaring alarms, almost like a fire alarm, big messages across the screen that said, like active shooter. And then, they said, hide, run, fight in big letters was the message there, which kind of was bonkers.
Yeah, that was the safety message. I got that one too.
In the text messages?
Yeah.
What is that? Where does that even come from?
That's part of the safety system.
The part that boggles the mind to me is fight. Like, why the fight part?
So I did a little research because I don't think you were alone, Sonia. A lot of people were commenting in the various social medias like, fight? What the hell?
Yeah.
But that's not an uncommon and certainly not unique to UNLV.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a protocol that has pretty much been adopted by every campus across the country. I saw at least 40 examples in my research of schools that have adopted that as the instant protocol.
Wow.
It's short, it's sweet. And I try to figure out where that had come from. And the best of my knowledge is that back in 2011, in a community in Texas, there was a safety video, and it was sort of floated there as being a very easy to remember protocol. I mean, you're always looking for that short term of a phrase, duck and cover, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so that sort of floated out in around 2011. By 2016, a lot of big agencies had adopted it. Homeland Security and others, and they were really promoting it. And the idea is this: it's the order of protocol. Like if you can get out of harm's way safely, that's your number one thing to do. Like get the hell out of there if you can. If you can't escape or don't see an easy path to escape, then you should hide out of sight if you feel like you won't be discovered. But, if you're confronted with someone who intends or appears to intend to do you harm, and, you have two options at that point: either absorb the harm or at least attempt to, take the person down or slow it down or stop it or whatever. And the criticism is that, we're not trained to be fighters, and a lot of us will freeze in those situations and might make things worse. But I understand the intent there is that, when all else seems to have failed, don't just be shot. If you can, do something to try to not be. I guess that's the concept of it. But no one's encouraging anyone to, be a hero, to take care of yourself first.
I asked Mark what he learned about being on campus during a lockdown that you didn't know before. Can I play that clip for y'all?
Yeah, I'd love to hear them.
What do you think you learned about being on campus during a lockdown that you didn't know before?
That you want to run, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you want to that you want to run and you want to get as far away as possible. But I don't think that was the best idea in that moment, because you don't know if the shooter's nearby. You also don't know if the police are going to shoot you for running, or anybody else. Like, what if there's someone open carry and they're like shooting with the shooter? Like, there's just a lot of things where I was like, or there were a lot of scenarios playing out where I'm like, okay, we're going to have to hunker down. I watch a lot of crime TV shows, and a lot of, like, the cliche, right, is like, oh, you never think that it could happen to you, and then it does. And I was like, I always think that it could happen, especially mass shootings. I always think that it's going to happen, and it just happened. Like, it happens. We were all pretty calm and collected, and like I said, even at a moment, we were all in pretty good spirits. And there's something slightly sad about that, that we all kind of knew that this was going to happen, or that it was a possibility, and that it was here, and that it was just routine and normal. And I think there's something really saddening about that. Even if it made us a little bit more equipped to deal with it, it was still very, very sad.
That's an interesting point he makes. I think the normalization of this in our society is something that's hard to deal with for everyone, people in the media, observers, and of course people who have to confront it and find themselves in these situations.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's the specter of another horrible day kind of lingering over today, and that's, 1 October 2017. We were all in Vegas on that day. I'm curious, where are you feeling the echoes of 1 October today?
I just want to say that it's hard bringing up 1 October, and also it's impossible to not bring up 1 October. They're all the same. All these mass shootings are the same, and they're all completely different and unique. And I want to try to refrain from making too many references to October 1, only because they are so unique. And to lump them all together, I think almost diminishes the unique experience that those who experience this UNLV shooting have had to endure. I get the big picture. I get how they all fit in together. All other campus shootings too. There's lessons to be learned from all of them, but I think we also have to make sure that each of them are treated individually and that we don't conflate different mass shooting experiences, because it does diminish the emotions that we need to sort of sort out.
Yeah, I agree it's hard to compare, David, but I think it's also hard not to think about that when something like this happens again in our community.
I did too.
Yeah,
I mean, we do.
And especially after seeing that press conference, Governor Lombardo mentioned how he put systems in place after 1 October for events like this. And I think that just makes us not compare, but think about what the response was to this and what the response was to 1 October. I was a student at the time, and I know the UNLV police department got a lot of criticism for not alerting the students fast enough and not responding to something that was happening not on campus, but near campus, and that students could be affected by and were affected by. And the response was pretty slow to that. So I think we saw some learning from that today in the quick response from the UNLV Police Department and Metro. But like I said, my friend on campus wishes that she got more updates. It's so hard because we need to learn from experiences like this while hoping that they never happen again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one lesson I know we do learn from these prior experiences is that we do need as many facts as possible, as quickly as we can get them, because otherwise that vacuum of facts and data gets filled with conspiracy theories and bad intel and bad spreads. And that's really dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little disappointed in the press conferences, at 5:00 Wednesday, that a little bit more information wasn't placed out there. And, the sheriff addressed that directly. He goes, I know you all want this information. It's like, no, we don't just want it because, it satiates some weird interest that we have. It's so that these gaps aren't filled with bad intel, bad information, misinformation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so...
Right. Which, Layla, your friend saw firsthand, right?
Yeah, she was getting all kinds of reports. And debunking that it's just stressful in the moment, and you kind of just want to pay attention to being safe, but there's all of this misinformation going around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of, patting each other on the back for what a great job they did. And I'm not saying they didn't do a great job. I think law enforcement here did what they're supposed to do. I just feel like there was more of an interest in making sure that they were being recognized for their efforts than giving us the information that would be really important right now. And that's unfortunate that that's also what we've kind of become as we go through these things over and over again. I mean, a press conference where there's only 3 questions allowed and then they leave. Why? Just be there as long as there's questions. Like, that should have been the way. But even me saying that now is going to be like, how insensitive that you're criticizing law enforcement at this really important time. And I'm not saying that they are bad people or they did wrong, but, we do need to flip the script sometimes on how we talk about these things, especially where information has not been fully disclosed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll have plenty more press conferences over the next few days, I'm sure, and hopefully a chance to get a lot more questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
David, Layla, thank you both for being here. Thank you for talking about this raw and difficult topic. And thank you for being here for the listeners of CityCast.
Yeah. Thoughts are with everyone in our community and all of those affected by this.
And gratitude to all those who sprung into action to help those students and faculty and staff and even visitors to the campus.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you appreciate the work that we do, please consider telling a friend about us. You can also rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care.